Well, some parts came in for the pump, so I've got to get to work on getting this pilot tube out of the housing. So I'm going to give it another shot here on the press. I decided I'm going to go back to the original plan of pressing it out from the inside here, coming out this end, because that way I can put this part on the press plates, and that'll give me more support, because this is a lot stronger here than the thin housing end here. So I figured out that this half-inch extension works pretty well, because it's got this rounded edge right here. It almost is self-aligning. Just drop it in there and it lines up nicely. And so, I don't know if you can see it, but so I don't have to worry about alignment. So I'm going to reset things up here. Okay, at this point, again, I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on there. It's not budging, so now I'm going to apply some heat. I'm going to use a MAP gas torch, and I'm going to apply heat right to the neck area right here, and then put pressure on it again. Hopefully it'll break free. That worked excellent. Only need to give it about 10 seconds worth of heat, and it popped. So now should be able to press it right out. Okay, my big old wrist pin from the 353 diesel that I use as a press, an arbor or whatever you want to call it there, that has bottomed out. So now I've got to flip it over. In other words, this is too large of a diameter, so take that out. I've got that. Oh, look at that. Yeah, there's definite evidence there that this was in fact glued in or epoxied in with some kind of a material. So now I can just flip this extension over, put it back in, and get the press going again, finish pushing it out. And that's working well. Get my hand underneath there and get ready to catch it before it drops. Okay, so there's the old pilot tube, and when the new one came in, I took it out and looked at it, and I noticed it had these grooves on it, which immediately made me think that by design it is supposed to be cemented in there somehow. And sure enough, it sure looks like there's some sort of a glue of some type that was applied to this. So let's take a look at that new tube. Let's take a look at the goodies we got here. Alright, so we've got, here is the stop for the delivery valve, and I ordered a new one of those because the instructions for this assembly said to discard the old one, so obviously they want to replace that. That also goes for this little clip right here. This is the clip that holds that throttle shaft assembly in and shutoff shaft assembly together, and I believe this is called the shutoff cam, because that extra long tang right there actually reaches over and closes the metering valve. And again, this also was an item that during disassembly it's recommended that you discard it, so they obviously want you to replace that also. And then it didn't say to discard it, but because it was so cheap, I decided to get a new snap ring. This is the snap ring that retains the governor weight retaining assembly, or whatever you want to call that, onto the rotor shaft. And then we've got this thrust plate. This is that plate, that wear plate on the end of the pump there, that the ends of the rotor blades, or blades in the transfer pump, actually wear against. And on later pumps this is omitted, and they actually wear against the actual end cover. Now this is my original one, and then it had these wear marks on it. That's why I decided to replace this. And again, it looks like maybe at some point this was turned over, reversed during a rebuild. So both sides had some wear on them. This wasn't an extremely expensive component, so I decided to replace it. Interestingly enough, this is brand new in a Standardine bag, but if you look closely at it, it's funny. To me, it almost looks like it's a refurbished part. There's just all these swirl marks on it, almost as if like they polished out some wear marks on this part. It wasn't that expensive, so I decided to opt for replacement on that. And then we have, this is Spaco part number 07098. This is the transfer pump blade set. What you get here is you get all four of the transfer pump blades. This was relatively inexpensive. And if you're going to replace that, then we've got the liner for the transfer pump, which is, let me get the old one here. That's this assembly right here that the vanes actually ride inside of. So it's the outer like housing of the transfer pump section. Again, this also was not that. Good idea to replace that, since that's where apparently, from what I was reading, a lot of the wear takes place in this pump is actually in this transfer pump section. And then a new check valve. Now, according to the parts diagram for my pump that this diesel had, he said my pump doesn't show a check valve being used. But during disassembly, we did in fact find this check valve that was screwed into the top here, which is working. Got that little glass check valve in there. And so I decided that since this had one, when I was taking it apart, I would replace it with one. So this is the more common one. I think the Standardine number is a 15830, and then it's a Spaco number 08044. Take a quick look at that. There we go, and that looks like a perfect match. I like how the new one even has. Then we have the all-important seal kit, which they call here the new modified O-Haul kit for DB and JDB type pumps. This is the Spaco 06886. And this is just loaded with O-rings, gaskets, seals. I see the umbrella seals there. So this ought to be fun to figure out what goes where in this. Looks like we also got some nice caps, so we can cap the outlets after we get done putting everything back together to keep dirt out of there. Looks like there's even a couple of the plugs come with it. And then I'm sure there's some parts in here that may or may not even be used in my particular pump application. They probably kind of like carb kits, because it says DB and JDB. So, but looks like we're going to have a lot of the parts that are causing some leaks for us right now available in this kit, so that's good. And then last but not least, we have the new pilot tube. And here you can see what I was talking about. You can see the grooves on there that look like to hold some sort of a sealant or adhesive. We'll have to figure out what we want to use on that. Yeah, so I just checked, and this is a very loose fit. You can slide it right in. So definitely going to have to use some sort of an adhesive on this to put this all together and keep this from moving. So the first thing I want to do is clean off any old adhesive from the inside of the housing here. Alright, I used my soft brass small brush on my Dremel tool, or my rotary tool, and cleaned this up nice. And now that I've removed the remnants of whatever that adhesive was, you can see what a loose fit this is. This is actually practically, if I let this go, it'll fall right through. So I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to use for an adhesive here.